With the threat of a chemical attack looming in Syria, Washington warns it will respond with deadly force against President Bashar al-Assad's forces. But as One America's Pearson explains, the U.S. has a history of shooting first and investigating later, or not at all. And it's the residents of Syria who pay the price.
The final stand for terrorists in Syria. The last days of militant opposition are coming to an end, and the chosen battlefield is the city of Idlib. The western city sits between Aleppo and the capital Damascus, and the Syrian army is preparing an offensive to drive out terrorist forces. The city was captured by al-Nusra Front in 2015, and that point should be reiterated. The city is held and occupied by radical Islamic terrorists who routinely butcher men, women, and children. But sadly, that's not the picture being painted by Western media.
Judging from articles such as this one, the residents of Idlib are bracing for an attack from government forces and say they'd rather die than live under President Assad's rule. But the article neglects to mention that the city is controlled and run by some 20,000 al-Qaeda terrorists who have systematically slaughtered the Christian and Shiite minorities living in the city. Their singular goal is to convert all of Syria into an Islamic state, forcing all residents to convert or die. These are the people the Syrian army is up against, and the Western media chooses to side with the terrorists rather than support President Assad. What's worse is this terrorist group has been funded and supplied by the United States, with the goal of overthrowing Assad and installing a new pro-Western leader. And now that Assad's forces are on the verge of recapturing the last stronghold of terrorist forces, the U.S. is once again rushing in to save its militant fighters.
Consistently, we have supported al-Qaeda, we have now ISIS, we've fought them, and sometimes we work with them a little bit. Our policy has been anybody who is willing to overthrow the legitimate government of Syria, we're in support of them.
In an exclusive interview, Virginia Senator Richard Black told One America News that the U.S. is standing firm in its efforts to protect its investments in the Syrian opposition. Senator Black just returned from a trip to Syria where he met and spoke with President Bashar al-Assad, who he says the U.S. has never tried to work with.
On a multitude of occasions, the United States has come out and has made very strong statements in support of the terrorists. We don't say we're supporting the terrorists. We say, oh, the rebels, the moderate rebels, and so forth.
The U.S. is waging a very sophisticated war against Syria, using propaganda provided by terrorist groups like the White Helmets to help manufacture public support for the campaign to overthrow Assad. That propaganda includes pictures and videos like this, a young boy who strangely appears to be a resident of two different towns, demanding the U.S. come and save them from Assad. And it looks like the U.S. is preparing to do just that. Far from his promise to de-escalate America's involvement in the war, President Trump appears ready to retaliate against any use of chemical weapons, whether they're used by Assad or not. As in the last chemical attack in Douma this past April, no actual evidence of a chemical attack has been found, and One America News' own investigations found no civilians were killed.
In the case of Douma, there wasn't even an attack. There was just a theatrical exhibition to pretend there was an attack, and none occurred at all.
Residents there told OAN the attack was a false flag designed to get the U.S. to attack government forces and help the terrorists escape, which is exactly what happened. Before committing to a war, it seems reasonable the U.S. should require proof of an attack and should send a U.S. representative to investigate, something President Assad has invited us to do. But now, the U.S. is moving in warships and preparing to fight shoulder to shoulder with al-Qaeda against not only the Syrian army, but against the civilians who are being held hostage and tortured by terrorists as well. This is the same group that attacked the U.S. and killed 3,000 Americans on September 11, 2001, now being defended by America.
One of the things that you'll notice, every time there is a false flag gas attack, the media publicizes it to begin to get it planted in people's minds that there's going to be one.
No chemical attack has happened yet. But back in 2017, after the attack in Khan Sheikhoun, the U.S. opened fire without waiting for any investigation to determine who was responsible. And again in Duma, the U.S. immediately opened fire without giving any inspectors the chance to find out if it was the Syrian government or the terrorists the U.S. has armed and supported. And now the Pentagon has come out and said it's prepared to do the same, and that the use of chemical weapons will not be tolerated.
But as in all the previous cases, why would it be in Assad's interest to use chemical weapons now, when terrorists are nearly defeated and doing so would cause him to be attacked by America? All of this builds a picture that Washington doesn't need any real evidence to attack Syria, just a desire for regime change, which U.S. officials have repeatedly called an essential goal. So for now, the world waits, and the residents of Idlib hold their breath and hope that if the terrorists do carry out a chemical attack, it won't bring down the wrath of the United States on their homes and families.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.